forgot to send him an email. That's what I forgot to say. It should be here. Get it right, I forgot. Did not function for that. I had to prepare for myself. That's as high as I go. Does that work?
Oh, not yet. Wait.
You want to sing from your knees? No. Thanks for all being here. I'm glad you.
What happened to our warm-up?
You had to do that in the car on the way here.
Oh, I thought you said be here at 42.
No,
so
no, that was
warm
just
up.
to be warm bodies ready to go.
Oh. I forgot to warm up.
Who let Virginia? You know, I told him at the door.
I snuck
No
in.
matter what Virginia's bag says, don't let her in.
I snuck in.
It's not gonna.
I did. They weren't looking, and I just.
All your phones are either off or on vibrate, I assume. I have to use my phone. If you see me go to my phone, it's nothing other than I'm just adjusting my hearing aids. So realize that's what I'm doing. It's really cool, actually. Are we all here? It is warm. It's not cool up here. Your sectional here? We're missing one.
Missing one what?
What are you missing? Well,
Missing
fine.
one what?
Okay, guess what? We're starting.
Oh, it's
Up you
Danny.
go. Up. Wait till they stand up. This is slow. The average age is.
Wow.
If we include Virginia, the age. Wow.
Shut up.
Okay, have some fun now. Let's see if we sound better than the recording.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
Well, 2 years ago, we were in a Mormon church to start our holidays. Last year, none of you showed up. And this year still looks a little different. Now, I understand that all these kind of coincided with me becoming your rabbi, but that's a complete coincidence. But I know that a lot of you, most of you, are joining us tonight virtually, but many of you are here today as well, vaccinated and masked and in person. And how wonderful, how beautiful it is for us to be together. This past year, we've had moments of despair, moments where we didn't know if there'd be a light at the end of the tunnel, and then moments of hope. And though it's not ideal still, moments of coming back together. Sometimes, so some of this does feel a bit familiar. We're in the space that many of us have called home for decades. Some of this feels a bit new, like having a wonderful cantor by my side in Cantor Brown Levy, and being joined also, by the way, on the Bema by Pete Schwager, Bill and Julia Reagan, and John Merdens, wonderful people in our community. So as we begin the year 5782, but like I say each year, for the next few weeks, I'll still write 5781 on my checks. Thank you. That's an appropriate amount of laughter for that joke. You'll hear it next year, too. Let's appreciate, perhaps, the holiness of each other. How, even if we can't see the lower half of our faces, we can look into each other's eyes and connect with one another in a way that wasn't possible a year ago. This Rosh Hashanah is one where we acknowledge our vulnerabilities and our struggles, but it's also one where we can appreciate with deep gratitude how far we've come and how wonderful it is for us to be together. And so to welcome in our holiday, because really this is the starting of a year and hopefully will bring light and inspiration to all of us, I'd like to invite up my wife Jill Spector and my daughter for her very first Rosh Hashanah, Miriam Spector, to help us with the lighting of the candles. It looks like Miriam's asleep and it's not even Dad's sermon yet, so come here, you. Oh, she's awake, actually. Look at that. Oh. Join together. It was a fun experience of feeling like everyone was looking at me while nobody was actually looking at me. We are going to, like I said, this is a time of so many new beginnings. Let's join together in the singing of the Shechianu.
Adonai וכי עמנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. שהגיענו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
We rise for the Baruch Hu, our call to worship, on page 20. Be seated. We turn to page 21, and I would like to invite up Karen Nielsen-Anson to lead us in a blessing as we welcome the evening. Come up here.
Praised are you, Adonai, sovereign of the universe, whose word brings the evening dusk. You open the gates of dawn with wisdom, change the day's division with understanding, set the succession of seasons, and arrange the stars in the sky according to your will. Lord of the heavenly hosts, you create day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness away from light. Adonai, your rule shall embrace us forever. Praised are you, Adonai, for each evening's dusk.
Karen, wait. Karen,
Wait, Karen, come back.
go ahead. Do you want to do the Hatima?
Sure. Elachai v'kayam, tamidim lo chaleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai.
want Karen to stay up here for a moment. And actually, I think I see my buddy Enrico, if I can recognize the upper half. Can you come up here too, Enrico, really fast? Sorry, I put you on the spot. But this year, we're doing honors a little bit differently. We are really trying to acknowledge the people that have gone above and beyond for our community. And last year, we had Cantaloupe wonderfully helping us on most of our Saturdays and holidays, but we didn't really have any cantors on Friday nights. And so I thought maybe I could be the rabbi and cantor on Friday nights, and I heard from many of you that that was not adequate option. And these two wonderful, amazing people here who are very musically talented, I approached them and they said they would happily do our Friday night services for us, and Karen also co-led a number of our B'nai Mitzvah with me. And pretty soon people were requesting her, they didn't really care who the rabbi was, but they really want Karen at their children's B'nai Mitzvah. And with both of these people, we asked them, you know, can we compensate you? Can we work something out? And they both said our love of Judaism and our love of music and sharing that with the community is all the compensation we need, and did, between the two of them, about 50 Shabbatot as volunteers leading our services and leading us in worship. So I want to publicly say Todah Rabbah to the both of you. Enrico, I didn't know you were going to be here tonight, so I don't have anything for you, but we will get you, and I see you're here with your girlfriend. We'll treat you guys to a dinner or something. But for Karen, who I did know she was going to be here from our congregation, we have this to as a token of our gratitude for all you did for us. So thank you so much. Be careful of that. I almost dropped it like 10 times coming here. So, but thank you to the both of you. You both are wonderful people and really represent the best of our community and our volunteerism. Todah Rabbah. We are going to continue our service on page 20 with Ahavat Olam.
The soloist is Cheryl Palmer.
Ahavat olam, with everlasting love, hast thou loved the house of Israel, Yisrael.
page 22.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Adonai Elohecha, b'chol levavecha, u'b'chol nafshecha, u'b'chol meodecha, v'hayu הדברים האלה, אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ולכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
Continue silently through page 24.
אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Rosh Hashanah is not just an opportunity for a new start like we often think that New Year's is, but rather Rosh Hashanah is a beginning of a moment for the commitment of change, of changing our future, of changing ourselves. We come into Rosh Hashanah knowing things about ourselves that nobody else knows, nobody but God perhaps, and sit here often, I know for myself, with a tremendous imposter syndrome as we think about what it is we want to change this year. Is it addiction? Is it the way that we interact with others? Is it our critical nature or our temper or whatever it may be? This is a beginning of moment for change. And it was, sorry, too long of a pause, I'll take. And it was at this moment, thousands of years ago, when our people stood on the edge of the sea, on the shore of the sea, that they committed to changing their future, to ensuring that their tomorrows would be better than their todays, by joining hands and crossing the sea and saying, whatever I went through yesterday will not be my tomorrow. We turn now to page 26 for the Mi Chamocha.
ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ובני ישראל, לך אנו שירה בשמחה רבה, יאמרו העולם. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נתן בקודש, דורות תהילות מלכותך ראו בניך, בו קיים לפני משה, זה הביא אנו ויאמרו נאמר כי ודע אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני. גל ישראל.
Bottom of the page, Hashkivenu. Praised are you, Adonai, who spreads a shelter of peace over us, over all the people of Israel, and over Jerusalem. Page 28.
Ich
שמי רבה. ועלמדי ופרח יראותי, וימליך מלכותי, בחייכו וביומכו, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בעגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם, ויתנשא, ויתהדר, ויתעלה, ויתעלל, שמי קודשה בריחו. לעילה ולעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה עיניכם מטה תאמירו ביעלמה ואמרו אמן.
You are invited to arise physically or in spirit as we turn to page 30 for the silent Amidah. And you can pray through page 37, either the even number pages having the Hebrew text, the odd number pages, the English text, or use this as a moment for your own prayers and meditations. And when you're finished, you may be seated.
Shalom Rob is next.
turn to page 42 for Kaddish Shalem.
יתגלה, יתגלה, שמי אמן. בעלמא תברכי רותי ויעלי מלכותך. בחייכם וימי חון, ובחיי כל בית ישראל. בעגלה ובזמן קריב. ואימרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך. לעולם עולמי עלמיה יתברך. יתברך וישתבח. יתפאר ויתרומם. יתנשא ויתגדל. יתגלה ויתגלה. שמי דקודשה. לעילה ולעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה. תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמא. תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמא. ואימרו אמן. תתקבל צלותו ובאותו לכל ישראל. קדם אבוהון דיבישמעיה. יהי שלום רבה מן שמיה. בחיים בחיים עלינו. עלינו ועל כל ישראל. ועל כל ישראל. ועל כל ישראל.
It's always so unfair that I have to follow the Hasidic Kaddish. That's so much fun. Shana Tova. When I ask people which is their favorite Jewish holiday, I often hear Rosh Hashanah because it gives people a chance for a new beginning. In this way, it is much like the attitudes of many towards our Gregorian New Year, as was stated in the movie Forrest Gump, when a lady at a bar told Forrest, "Don't you just love New Year's? You get to start all over. Everybody gets a second chance." Every Rosh Hashanah, I like to look at the past year and do an accounting of it. What moments of joy and victories did we achieve, and what moments of defeat and losses were thrown our way? A year ago, as the sun was setting, we felt the despair of loss of a woman of valor, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And since then, we have seen moments of transition of a new American president, a new Israeli prime minister, and moments of moral reckoning of our own society, from the insurrection on our Capitol to the guilty verdict of Derek Chauvin in the killing of George Floyd, to the way that we have or have not combated the coronavirus, to the ending of America's longest war, with withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan. Each of us can recall moments in the health of ourselves and our loved ones of decline and revival. Perhaps the joys of B'nai Mitzvah and weddings, in person or virtually, of people we love, or the death of a person, a relationship, or a venture that was not meant to be. 2 years ago, we were crammed full into, well, not this room, but a room. And had we been told that 2 years later, we would rejoice at having far fewer people in person following a year of not a soul walking into our sanctuary during the high holidays, who would have believed it? For me, the past year has brought similar challenges of COVID, but in looking at last Rosh Hashanah versus today, I find blessings too. A year ago, last Rosh Hashanah, no offense, but I had never heard the name Sharon Brown Levy before. I had mostly known West Coast clergy, since that's where I'd spent my career. And today I get to share my bima with someone who has quickly become a cherished colleague, friend, and not only a part of my rabbinic story, but also soon the story of our congregation. Last Rosh Hashanah, it was just me and Jill, and we went into the holidays praying that a year later our family would grow. Since then, we not only became pregnant, but welcomed a new life and new joy that we couldn't have fathomed into the world with our daughter Miriam. A year ago, I had never changed a diaper before in my life. And ironically, as of this evening, I've changed 5,782 of them in the past 3 months. The potentiality of the year to come is reflected throughout our high holiday liturgy. The Unatana Tokef speaks to our vulnerability and asks, who will live and who will die? Who will be born into this world and who will be taken from it? Who will become rich and who will become poor? Every year that we recite the Unatana Tokef, I look around the room and know that there are people among us who won't be here next Rosh Hashanah. And that inevitably one year, I will read the question from our text, who will live and who will die? And the latter will be me. This prayer, written by Rabbi Amnon of Mainz, encapsulates the idea of faith, hope, fear, and that something is greater than us, more than any other in our tradition. Yet there is another piece of liturgy that also speaks to the possibilities of the year ahead that we sing on Rosh Hashanah. Hayom Harat Olam. Hayom Harat Olam is often translated as, today the world is born, where we are invited to imagine the world being created with a clean slate for us to be judged anew. However, if this translation were to be accurate, the prayer should read Hayom Leidat Olam rather than Harat Olam, with Olam meaning world or eternity, and Harat generally being the root of the word conception or pregnancy. Many commentators have stated that perhaps this prayer should be translated as, today is eternally pregnant. Our liturgy is telling us that today is not necessarily a day for a clean slate, but rather a day for us to look forward. As pregnancy is a time filled with growth and new possibilities, we can look at our prayer book as telling us that today is a day of eternal possibilities, of wonder, of miracle, of growth, of potential. Where the Jewish New Year differs from that of the Gregorian New Year is in the name and the message that that name implies. Our secular New Year begins on the first day of the first month of the year, while the Jewish New Year does not begin until around the middle of the year, on the first day of the 7th month of the year on the Hebrew calendar. But in particular, the name New Year is indicative of that quote from Forrest Gump, everyone gets a second chance. It's a new beginning to start all over. When we look at the Hebrew name of our new year, we notice that it's not Shana Hadashah, literally new year, but rather Rosh Hashanah, head of the year. and we see something more telling in that name. In Hebrew, Rosh has the same root as the word Bereshit, beginning, and Shana the same root as the word Shinui, change. In essence, our new year is not just a new year to start over, but rather it is the beginning for change. When we learn in our tradition, what we learn in our tradition is that change does not necessarily just require an act of faith, but rather it demands self-motivation and action to coincide with hope that tomorrow can be better than today. It was the civil rights and anti-war iconic theologian, Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, who said, "Pray as if everything depends on God, but act as if everything depends on you." It was with this mindset that our people cried out on the shores of the sea and then courageously stepped forward, following the example of a man named Nachshon, who could no longer wait for God to halt the advancing Egyptian army and plunged himself into the Sea of Reeds. Following this act was when God split the sea to allow the people the ability to choose a new future for themselves. It is with this same attitude that we find ourselves entering this year in a remarkably different predicament than we were in a year ago. A year ago, we found ourselves standing on the edge of the sea, terrified of this horrific virus rapidly approaching us like the chariots of Pharaoh as we anticipated a difficult fall and winter ahead. Many of us cried out in prayer and despair as we feared that this plague would strike us down. How many of us at last year's Unatani Tokef, when we asked the question, who will live and who will die by plague, feared more greatly than ever before that we would not be sealed in the book of life and make it until this Rosh Hashanah. Yet it was in that moment where there was no hope for our ancestors, when they literally had their backs against a wall of water, that they were given that window of opportunity to make their tomorrows better than their today, when the sea split. The most remarkable part of this story of our redemption is that when our numbers, in excess of 1 million souls, men, women, and children, the elderly, those who were able-bodied, and those who were not, every single one of those people crossed the sea. Every person forced themselves through that fear and helped bring one another along with them to freedom, to redemption, to liberation from bondage, and no person was left behind. And on this Rosh Hashanah, we have the opportunity for change as well, the opportunity for freedom as well. Yet our chance at redemption reveals itself not in the form of Moses lifting his staff and splitting the sea, but rather in the fashion of people lifting vaccines and providing us with life-saving innovation. The Nachshons were those who courageously took part in studies, not knowing what would come of them, but rather having the audacity to take a risk to themselves and go into the unknown if it could mean saving their brothers and sisters. Yet where our story from thousands of years ago diverges from our story today is that nearly half of our country has chosen to remain on the side of the sea with Pharaoh's army approaching than to come with those of you who are sitting among us today, who elected to cross toward freedom and try to make it to the promised land. In looking at our biblical narrative, how could the promised land have been our promised land, though, if half of our tribes did not come with us? If half of us remained in Egypt? Would we have even survived in the desert against warring tribes if we had half of the numbers? No. And likewise today, for those of us who have crossed the sea on boats called Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson, we do not find ourselves whole nor free from danger. Though we are in a safer position for being vaccinated, we are not in a good place. Not only do the vaccinated in our midst still have a chance, albeit smaller, of becoming sick and dying of this virus, perhaps harder is thinking of the parents, siblings, cousins, relatives, friends, and community members we have who are not vaccinated, and knowing that there are many people we deeply love who by choice or circumstance are in harm's way. There are those, of course, who for a medical reason cannot be vaccinated under the direction of their doctors, and for those people, we must do our part to ensure that we take appropriate measures to keep them safe. They're not who I'm talking about tonight, but I want us to show them love, compassion, sympathy, and care, and let them know that we see them. Yet for most others who have not been vaccinated, their motivations range from politicizing vaccines to being contrarians of those they feel are being elitists, to the apathetic who are not concerned of the virus and do not want to bother with getting vaccinated, to the people who fear what the long-term effects of this virus might be. Yet it's not just these souls, these individuals, who must make a heshbon hanefesh, an accounting of their souls, but rather those of us who are vaccinated too. We pray and hope that these individuals will follow the words that we will read in the Yom Kippur Mincha service of Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, love your neighbor as yourself, and that those who will not wear masks and who do not wish to get vaccinated for reasons of their own hubris will no longer have a hardening of their hearts. We know the statistics, how vaccinated people are 15.4 times less likely to die from COVID. However, what is often heard when we tell somebody who's not vaccinated, when we say, well, don't you know, insert statistic here, what they hear is, you're stupid. I'm smarter than you. It's this approach that leads people to defiance. For when confronted in this way, conformity is an acknowledgement of defeat, in essence saying, you know better than I do. For many, the fear of smugness of another when they do not come around is more daunting than the virus itself, as loss of pride can outweigh the value of life on its own. Likewise, throwing arguments and statistics and belittling someone who is generally afraid of being vaccinated is a dismissal of their emotions and vulnerability. In the end, we must ask, do we really want these individuals to get vaccinated because statistics and science says that we are right? Is that the reason? To confirm what the statistics tell us? Or do we want them to be vaccinated because we deeply love and care about them and others in our society, and we fear what might happen if they get sick? When we stood at the edge of the sea and watched Pharaoh's army approaching and knew that the sea's parting was a narrow, temporary window that would shortly close, we can imagine what our ancestors did and did not say to their friends and family who were hesitant to cross over with them. They likely did not throw statistics or belittle them, but rather told them, I love you. I want to spend my future with you. Come join me in that future because I cannot imagine it without you. To naysayers, the response was not degradation, but rather compassion and acknowledgement of holiness, that our lives are better with them than without them. Those circumstances in the world and our lives do change for the better or worse without our influence, highlighting how small and vulnerable we are. We also see that certain challenges do not go away without us initiating the transformation. We can make Rosh Hashanah a chance for a new beginning. We can make it a day of starting over and of second chances. We can make it a day as though the world is born anew, a day of eternal possibilities, including those of life and death. In the Torah, we read just a couple of short days ago that Moses addressed every man, woman, and child among the people of Israel and said, I have set before you this day life and death, blessing and curse. Therefore, choose life so that you and your offspring may live. What Moses and the Torah are stating emphatically is that much like Heschel's quote of praying as if everything depends on God, but acting as though everything depends on us, that life can be at times a choose-your-own-adventure story. Therefore, go out and choose life. Choose to make decisions that will make our world and your lives better. Cross the sea to a place of opportunities and leave behind your Egypts. Do not just make this journey, though. Bring others with you. On this day that marks the first yahrzeit of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, let us recall her words. Fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you. Whether it is vaccines or another matter of holiness and importance, talk to others in a way that inspires rather than degrades. This Rosh Hashanah is a moment of Bereshit Shinui, a beginning of change for us, for others, and for our world. Shana Tova Umituka. May this be a sweet and healthy new year for each and every one of us, and may we all find ourselves together next year. Shana Tova.
I've been working hard so long. Seems like pain has been my only friend. My fragile heart's been done so wrong. I've wondered if I'd ever heal again. Oh, just like all the seasons never stay the same. All around me, I can feel a change. Oh, I will break these chains that bind me. Happiness will find me. Leave the past behind me. Today my life begins. A whole new world is waiting. It's mine for the taking. I know I can make it. Today my life begins. Yesterday has come and gone. And I've learned how to leave it where it is. And to see that I was wrong. Forever doubting I could win. Oh, just like all the seasons never stay the same. All around me I can feel a change. Oh, I will break these chains that bind me. Happiness will find me. Leave the past behind me. Today my life
rise for Kiddush, page 46.
Baruch atah Adonai. Eloheinu melech haolam. Barei bari hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai. Eloheinu melech haolam, asher בחר בנו מכל עם, ורוממנו מכל לשון, וקידשנו במצוותיו. ותיתן לנו, אדוני אלוהינו, באהבה את יום הזיכרון הזה, יונדרו Baruch atah Adonai. Melech al kol haaretz, mikadesh Yisrael, biyom hazikaron. Baruch atah Adonai. Eloheinu melech haolam, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. לחיים.
You may be seated. And the high holidays, as you all can imagine, are a marathon for the people who work here. It's the month where I think we kind of reconsider our life choices. I don't know about you, but I do sometimes. But we couldn't have done this without the help of our amazing, incredible staff who are here, including our maintenance employees who work so very hard, who've worked around the clock, our amazing, incredible choir and musical accompanists, and Ken Udy and David Asman, if they're grateful to you all, thank you. and our wonderful volunteers too. But also, Kolami could not be Kolami without the great work of our Board of Trustees. I see many of our board members here this evening. Thanks for all that you do. And I would like to welcome up to our bima John Mertens, who is the acting president of our Board of Trustees, to share with us some greetings for the new year. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Rabbi. I gotta move this up a little bit. Well, after the cantor's inspirational music and the rabbi's inspirational speech, I will endeavor to at least be brief. L'Shana Tova, happy and sweet new year to all. We, as the board and leadership of the congregation, are delighted that with the vaccine, we are able to host so many of you in person today, and to those, of course, who are comfortable with that. And from myself and the board, a welcome to all of you and to all of you watching at home. We very much appreciate your participation in our services and our community as well. I thank you to everyone here and at home. Thank you for all that you've done for our community. The year behind us has been somewhat challenging, but we all share some things in common. Last year, we were granted our wish. We were inscribed in the Book of Life. And what has held us together? Our community and our purpose. And for all of these reasons, I am so grateful to be serving as your acting president. And all of these things have inspired not only me, but have inspired the board, this year's board and last year's board. We have some wonderful things to talk about. As we were heading into the pandemic, when we didn't know what was going to happen, we were experiencing record growth in this synagogue. And during the pandemic, we were committed to being the synagogue that we all needed. And this took a leap of faith from the board, and it was inspired by you. We committed to having 2 full-time quality and professional clergy with a separate religious school director. That means more clergy available for pastoral care, for teaching, for sharing our faith. And that's necessary to support the growing membership that we're confident that we will see. We searched for and found a world-class musician to partner with our rabbi and invested in bringing her here. We grew the office with new administrative positions to assist our clergy and our director, and we committed to investing in the physical plant with new air conditioning, security systems, and water systems. And we've committed to making opportunities available to our members, such as the first American Sign Language bat mitzvah that we enjoyed only a few weeks ago. We're building the clergy, the staff, the facility, and the operation necessary to support a growing membership. And we're looking forward to in-person services and religious school for those of you who are comfortable. We're looking forward to live stream services and Zoom Minyan for those of you who are comfortable participating that way. These hybrid services are one more way for us to be the congregation for all our people. And we're welcoming a new Reform Machzor, which we will use tomorrow morning. During the pandemic, so many synagogues shrank. We strive to provide the sense of community that we need in these times. Over the last 3 years, we've added dozens of members each year. And even with families moving away, we have substantially increased our membership. Our synagogue is growing during these challenging times because of the life, the vitality, and the energy that you bring. For that, I thank you, and I welcome you to the High Holy Days at Congregation Kolami. I have our announcements for you today. Our services will continue tomorrow and Wednesday. Tomorrow morning, conservative services will begin in the Mountain View Sanctuary at 9 a.m. Reform services will begin at 9:30 a.m. in the main sanctuary. And then we will come together for the Torah service, the rabbi's sermon, and Musaf. Tomorrow evening, we will have a second night service beginning at 8 p.m. We are participating in a high holiday food drive, collecting non-perishable canned or packaged food items to deliver to the Jewish Family Service food pantry throughout the month of September. Bins are located in the south and west foyers. Please help build our sukkah. On Sunday, September 12th at 9 a.m., Larry, I see you waving at me for that, we will be building our sukkah, and we can use everyone's help. Toda Rabah to you, the clergy, choir, staff, and volunteers who worked so hard to prepare our services today. Please bring your books back out to the carts when you exit. Your seat booklet has lots of information for reading when you need a little break from services or to bring home to mark your calendars with upcoming programs and services. Please also take them with you when you exit the sanctuary. If you won't be back for on-site services, please return your lanyards on your way out of the building. Remember to bring your lanyards with you tomorrow. You'll need your lanyard and your High Holidays Pass to get into the building. Please enjoy a bit of Rosh Hashanah treats on your way out. Thank you, and Lashana Tova.
Thank you, John. We're so grateful for all that you and Bria do for our community and your wonderful leadership as well. We are going to turn now, as we begin to conclude our service. We're on page 48. And to open the Ark for Elenu, I get to pick a few people. I'd love to invite Beth and Daphne Crum, who I see here. Beth has been an active part of our social justice group and also our religious practices committee. Thank you for all you do. And Gary and Nancy, can I pick on you to come up here too? If you don't mind? You're saying no, you don't have to. Yeah, you too. Gary and Nancy have, throughout the whole pandemic, I saw, sorry to put you on the spot, but I always saw them volunteering in the garden, and we're grateful for what you contribute as well. So I invite you to come over here and open our Ark for us for the Elenu. And as the Ark is open, I invite you to please rise. Page 48. Thank you. As I said in my sermon, the new year can be exciting. It can be an opportunity for growth and an opportunity for new beginnings and change. But sometimes when we begin a new year, it can also be difficult for us because we think about the changes that have happened in the past year. At Jewish holidays in particular, I find myself often saying, who do I wish that I could see sitting in a seat here who isn't? Or who do I wish was sitting next to me that's not here? Moving on and starting over can be painful too, but we carry the memories of those people with us as we enter a new year and commit ourselves to bettering the world that they left us, to ensure that their memory stays alive and is a blessing for us as well. If you have somebody that you're remembering this evening, if you're watching at home, you're invited to say that name aloud. Or when I look in your direction, you're welcome to share a name with us too. Zichronam livraha, may their memories be for a blessing. If you're in mourning or it's your tradition to do so, you're invited to rise. We are on page 50. Yitkadav, Yikadash, Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach Yerute, Be'emlich malchute, Be'chayechon u'vyomechon u'vchaye dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agalah u'lizman kari b'imru. Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevarach Elam u'mei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yifa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitala Shemei d'Kudusha Parehu Le'ela le'ela Mikol birchata v'shirata Tush v'chata v'nechemata Da'miram be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba min Shemaya V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Osei shalom b'mromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who are mourning and comfort the bereaved among us. And may we all this year find ways to be there for one another when we need it most. And together we say, Amen. We will conclude our service, and as we do, I want to again wish all of you Shana Tova. May this year be a year of health and happiness, and though we are still in a difficult position, may we find moments of togetherness and wholeness. Shana Tova. We are going to conclude with Yigdal, page 54.
יגדל אלוהים חי וישתבח, נמצא וינט אל מציאותו.
אחד ויגחים כניותו, נעלם וגם אין סוף לאחדותו.
לא ימיל דתו, לאור עולמים לזולתו.
צופה ויודע, סתרנו, מביט לסוף דבר, בקדמתו.
המליש ושגב יפעלו, נותן לרשע כרשעתו.
ישלח בקץ ימים, נשיתנו, לצעוד מחדש ישועתו.
מתים יחייהם ברוב חסדו, ברוך הדיין שתהילתו.
מתים יחייהם ברוב חסדו, ברוך הדיין
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
Beautiful. Great singing. So we're going to start the Torah service in this room at 10:15 tomorrow. So 10 o'clock.